Hello, everyone. Welcome to my SharePoint Wizard podcast. And with me is Enea Liçaj and honorable guest Vesa Juvonen from Microsoft. Vesa,
Thank you.
how are you?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's really cool to be on this side of the the interviews. So it's it's quite often I'm on the other side, but this is all good. So doing really well. Spring is coming in Finland as well, which is really nice. So getting there. So
Great. Enea, how are you? Are you
I'm doing well. I had a slight
good?
cold the last days, but I'm recovering, so I'm back on track. Thanks.
Perfect. So listen, Vesta, we don't need to introduce yourself. Because everyone knows you. But for those that don't know you, can you give a short introduction? Where you're from, what you
yep,
do, what's your tasks, and
yes.
so we can learn something about what you do.
Absolutely. So my name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a principal product manager. I need to always think, is it program? But we changed that to be product manager in Microsoft. I'm working in the Microsoft 365 side of the house and organizationally more on a SharePoint side, but then my community work and the day-to-day work is across the Microsoft 365. So it's basically focused on educating the community, educating the customers and partners on the possibilities within the Microsoft 365 and doing then open source samples, videos, community calls, all of that stuff. So it's a lot of, how would I put it? It's a repeating kind of a agenda for every single week what we're doing, but then always new people, always new things to build on, and evolving this community work from whatever it was, 10 years ago to the current model where we are right now. So
It's amazing what you've achieved. I was in one of your community talks a couple of weeks ago, and it's crazy how that has grown and what
yes.
people, how many people they're
Yep.
joining, and the people are presenting also is amazing. Well
Yeah.
done.
Thank you.
So,
I'm a big fan of how would I put it? This is a bit of a different way of thinking than in most of the Microsoft. So most of the Microsoft is always thinking on projects and individual bits and pieces, which I understand. We need to deliver and do projects and evaluate the success. But I'm a big fan of consistency and grit and just keep on providing consistent value and keeping, for example, the dates and schedules and everything else to consistently available so that people know that, well, it is Tuesday 8 a.m. Pacific time. It is what's that in it's 5 p.m. in Central Europe, and you always know that that is the spot when something happens, and if you want
Yeah.
to be involved you can. So but we've been doing that now. Actually, it's a funny thing. I was just watching whatever. So some of the social media things have this historical memories thing, and they showed pictures from Las Vegas 2014, which happens to be the SharePoint conference 2014. Whenever we went first time public with our community and open source efforts. So we're now talking
oh,
about exact 10
10
years
years.
within this time frame. Um,
Amazing.
and at the time it
Wow.
was basically 2 persons or 5 persons, and now we have a lot of people involved, which is awesome. So
Yeah. That
So
you
your
go on.
background is, yeah. Do you what background do you come to your task?
yeah,
Were
so
you a developer or
yes, so I'm a developer by heart, and I was a developer and started in Microsoft 2006. Started in official, well, I had my own business before, but roughly 99, 98, 2000, I guess I started in ICL Fujitsu at the time, I guess, and started actually doing real production style development for actual customers and all of that. But always writing about code and making or extensibility in general and making things happen. And then as part of I moved to Microsoft in 2006 as a consultant, but already at the time, it was, well, for me, it's always natural to try to figure out how things work, but not only for me, but also for other people. So I was basically, we did a workshop materials for SharePoint 2007 and 2010 for development many moons ago, and then that workshop material got to be leaked to product group in Redmond, and they were basically like, well, okay, so this is exactly what we should be having across the world. So a lot of the material which I then created at the time got to be distributed inside of Microsoft to local country levels to help then the country level consultants to train their developers and customers and all of that. And then that was my kind of a way of getting connected on Redmond people. I'm still kind of a weirdo from that perspective that I'm sitting in Finland and Helsinki. So I have not moved to Redmond. Originally, that was never the plan. It was at some moment of a time we talked about the possibility of doing an exercise of staying there a few years with the wife and then seeing if that's a fun thing or not. But then there's a massive challenge of doing rambling around, but there's a massive challenge of moving to Redmond for family and then transitioning all of your spouse's job, and then more importantly
your
for
whole
me
life,
again,
right?
the whole life, changing the whole life. And more importantly for me, I started thinking on, okay, so we could easily be there 5 years. What about 10 or 15? Do I gonna retire in US? If I move back in 5 years, what I'm gonna do then? And then that was kind of the tipping point which made the decision on, okay, so we're not going to move, because why would we move? And let me just start working remotely. And that's been working. And that wasn't, I never thought about the fact that I'd be still here, what now, 9 years in engineering in Redmond organization, and people would still be happy about what we do remotely. My working hours are weird, but again, that's
I get it.
lifestyle choice. So.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, you mentioned 1999. I think I'm the youngest here in this call. I was 8 years old, so I was not doing much.
That really makes me feel old. So.
I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I want also to ask, as you've been working at Microsoft for 70 plus years now, right?
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
So how was it to experience this transition of such an amazing company firsthand? I mean, what have you? What was your favorite moments during these 17 years?
So something that I started 2006, and I think it was 2008 when we as a Microsoft we released Windows Azure in the cloud, which was the cloud operating system. It wasn't Microsoft Azure, it was Windows Azure. What was interesting already at the time, and this is something which Microsoft has struggled throughout the years and still do that was a PaaS service. So it was a platform as a service platform. However, none of the customers could understand what it is. They were like, well, but I have this computer and a server. Can I run it in your service as an IIS service? And the answer at the time was, well, no, because that's something which we don't provide, because we want to build PaaS as a platform as a service thing. And that was actually the moment when Amazon probably took over some of our customers, because they actually had their infrastructure as a service before Microsoft had. And then we needed to go back in time, well, almost like a backwards in technology, because PaaS, platform as a service, is a more advanced capability as an infrastructure as a service, as in running VM machines. And then we needed to start offering IIS. That's kind of an interesting small nuance in this journey of in the path. So we as a Microsoft, quite often what we tend to do is that we go a bit more advance in the future, and customers cannot tackle on, okay, so that's really cool, but how do I get there? I don't understand that. That's a really good example that for IT organization, it was really easy to understand. You have a server, then you create it as a virtual machine, and then you host it in somewhere. But try to explain for a normal computer person without the current knowledge that, hey, you don't need to have an operating system. It was like, wait, what? I don't.
Wow.
What does that mean?
Sounds strange. Yeah.
Yes. Currently, of course, we're building stuff using Azure Functions and all of that stuff. And nowadays, it's much more natural to do that. We don't need to worry about operating systems and the operational overhead over there. So that was one of the interesting. Obviously, Azure has been then exploded, and it's the biggest revenue generator in Microsoft. Well, I don't know if Office is even bigger. I can't remember, but it's kind of interesting to see that. I also used to do my first 8 years in Microsoft were consulting. So I used to do infrastructure design consulting as well. So I was a SharePoint consultant for some of the biggest customers within the world. I can't really say the name because I guess we shouldn't be saying them, but some of the oil refiner companies and car
Okay.
manufacturers in Europe, so you can figure out
Mm-hmm.
which those are.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and working with them, one of the challenges always was that, okay, how do you design the SharePoint farm? Because you need to design the infrastructure, as in hard disks, as in servers, as in memory, as in all of that
Mm-hmm.
stuff, because everybody was running their stuff in on-prem. And then one step at a time, transforming to be truly natively cloud powered, starting from 2013, I think, in a SharePoint, from a SharePoint perspective, and then more and more getting additional services on top of that. It's kind of a SharePoint is, how would I put it? It's the grandpa of so many things. But the reason why we always talk about SharePoint first or Exchange first, well, it's more, I think, more from SharePoint, is that Exchange was an email service. That was kind of
Yes.
natural. It doesn't matter where you host that. SharePoint
Mm-hmm.
was, however, a developer platform or extensibility platform, or a you could customize that. So that was the first piece which we then took from on-prem to the
Yeah.
cloud, where people were able to build solutions within information worker in this kind of
Yeah.
that kind of a native office world. And then we spun up to the Power Platform and all of the
Yeah.
other awesome capabilities which came from there. And that's why the SharePoint is always, there's a lot of like us a bit older who are like, yeah, they have a SharePoint background. That's why they have that, because we
Yeah.
transitioned to a
Yes.
SharePoint and then it exploded. So
By the way,
Amazing.
I must say, I forgot to say that Enea just received our MVP a couple of days ago. So clapping hands.
congratulations. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
Yes.
you.
it's a great. I received it a year ago, and
Yep.
I know it's lots of hard work, and whoever gets it, he really works hard for it, and Microsoft really chooses well, I think they choose the people that deserve it. So and I know, Vesa, you're also in the community. You're in contact with MVPs and people that
Yep.
are not MVPs, but I think it's important to announce it, and
Thanks,
congratulations.
Ami.
And now you need to
Absolutely.
prove yourself, or you proved
Yeah,
yourself, but now
exactly. Yeah.
you need to
I need to
continue.
I need to keep it. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. Don't consider that as a checkbox done. Consider that as a thank you for the acknowledgement of what I've done. I will keep on doing
Exactly. Yeah.
this in the future. So I'm actually an MVP lead on the Microsoft 365 development and SharePoint side. So
Oh, awesome.
the fact that you, Ami, got your MVP might have been that somebody in this call might have had an influence on the final thumbs up or thumbs down. So
oh, very good.
You have good
Okay,
connections, Ami.
yes.
are you talking about me or Inea, Vesa?
No, but
No,
you
no.
you have you have your SharePoint MVP.
Yeah, you have. I think you're SharePoint MVP. So I've been
Yeah,
in
yeah.
on
Oh,
those. The
I
SharePoint falls on
appreciate
my table as well. So
I appreciate if you had any hand with it, and whoever was, I try to reach. Part of this show is also to meet the people, also MVPs, and also people that are not MVPs, and also
yes,
Microsoft employees, because yeah, we're taking the product and trying to adopt it with the customers and bringing back all kinds of feedback, and it's both ways. So
yep, absolutely.
that's
Absolutely. And of course, the people who are getting MVP, they're getting the MVP because of their contributions and continuously showing the value. So thank you, Ami, also for your continuous new videos and explaining people the art of possible within the cloud. I think that's the primary purpose, primary value of what MVPs are doing. So explaining the real world story. We as a Microsoft, we're really good on telling how it's
theory.
supposed
Yeah.
to work and theory, but
Marketing
then we
stories.
don't. Yes, exactly. So MVPs are
Yeah.
super valuable for us as well. So
By the way, Enea has also a YouTube channel where he presents very creative power platform issues, and so
Yeah.
whoever's
Well,
listening should also check his YouTube. And back to you, Vesta. I'm
thanks, Ami.
interested. how does Microsoft, whatever you can reveal, of course, yes. How Microsoft thinks about new features in SharePoint, in Teams, because there's so many. And, is it something that comes from the feedback from the um, users? Is it a vision that they planned 5 years ago? It can be a combination.
Do you have
It's
like a
interesting.
glass ball where you cook, where you look inside?
Yes. Now, as part of this transition from the whatever Microsoft did in on-prem to the cloud and everything else, obviously the product development model has changed quite significantly. In the past, we really had those visions around what is 3 years, 5 years, and what are we going to do there, and pushing those forward. I think nowadays we're much more agile, and that's by design as well. So it's more on the customer feedback to input what we're collecting from MVPs like you two, and of course from customers and partners, and how they're flagging missing features or capabilities, and then those are getting ranked internally. But it's the combination of both. So there's decisions which are coming top down from Russia. So Jeff Deeper owns Teams and OneDrive
Yeah.
and SharePoint as an example, from top down from there, and basically they have their own visions and objectives on the bigger picture and painting the scene where we're heading. But then a lot of the smaller adjustments and ideas come from customers and partners, and many times we might do an experiment. We might test that the button moves one location over there,
Mhm.
and then we calculate, is it actually ending up better results versus the previous location. Not that shuffling the buttons is a smart thing to in any way, but introducing capabilities, and a lot of the actual real investments are then also based on data. So it's not just like I feel that there's some sort of a thing. No. We are trying to figure out how do we instrument that assumption. So somebody has a vision, somebody has a hunch, somebody has an idea, and typically what you want to do is prove that before you invest, that you know how much usage is currently, for example, some feature has, and then as you start investing or adjusting that, you need to see that usage goes up or down, and then you make decisions based on that. But the
Interesting.
sequence is much smaller nowadays, but it's highly data driven. So
Mhm.
making analytics on the data based on customer sizes and usage and details, and where and which features go up and down, and also a lot of it is based on customer feedback, definitely.
I see. I see. Very interesting.
Also, I think the community plays a big role there, right? So all
Yes,
those
that's kind of
ideas that
customer section as well. Yeah, sorry.
exactly. So all those ideas that we post on Power Apps or Power Automate and SharePoint and so on and so forth. If we can have this feature or that feature, that's that's a great solution as well. Saves
And
time also for you, so you don't have to think about it.
correct, and that's also data driven. So if it's
Yeah,
one person yelling in Twitter by saying that Microsoft doesn't get it, they should do X and Y and Z,
Mhm.
that's nice feedback. But if we can get that one in the feedback portal, and then that idea is getting 1,000 votes, then we know that there's 1,000 other people who agree
yeah,
on that
exactly.
point. And that's why we're trying to be more transparent, and we are trying to collect the ideas as a collective idea, rather
Yeah.
than
Mhm.
focusing on only one individual person's. So
I see.
Since we are talking about features and updates, are you working, or if you can say, are you working on like a new redesign of SharePoint? Because we've had the modern design of SharePoint now for a couple of years, and there
yep.
are also still a couple of rough edges that you can find in SharePoint, where sometimes SharePoint Classics pops up.
Yep.
Is it like, are you working on that, or what's the plan there? Because I know
Um,
that many people are looking forward to like a redesign of SharePoint, maybe with a little bit more features in UI
yes.
UX.
So the SharePoint itself, SharePoint is really interesting because it is the backbone of, for example, for Microsoft Teams. It's the
Yeah,
backbone for Loop. People don't necessarily understand that all of the loops are actually being stored in SharePoint,
Mhm.
actually in SharePoint embedded containers, but that's a separate discussion point. But it's incredibly broad platform. So we actually think about SharePoint now more as a platform. And then if we want to focus on where are we investing, then SharePoint portals is a one, pages and portals is a one section, SharePoint embedded has a one section, and so on. Are we looking into doing modernization? I think we published the modern SharePoint in 2017, I think it's 2016 public, and then 2017 GA. And there is another round of UX design coming. We've shown mock-ups and teasers within the past year, but we should be able to start seeing real changes and visual indications on that pretty soon. So there's going to be changes and improvements, really cool new capabilities on creating those portals. Now, will that then impact that you would not fall back on necessarily Classic in all of the cases? The answer is no, because again, it comes on how the product group is being sequenced. So it's not SharePoint as an organization, it's SharePoint sites and pages. And then, for example, let's say something which is close to my heart because of some of the ownerships is that when you try to install a SharePoint framework solution from a site, you'll actually fall back on a Classic, and then you're confused and all of that. Yeah. That is a completely separate section owned by different people. And the resourcing is not away from the pages and sites. It's a different kind of an organization completely. So we don't even think about SharePoint anymore as a top-down, as a one unified product. It's more on, there's a set of sequenced and organizations on top of that.
Okay, that's interesting.
This addition to the design will come in a combination with Copilot, I believe, in some way.
The timing, yes, definitely. So, and there's I think we hint at some of that. I don't know what all of the information of what is public and what is not, so I don't want to spill the beans. But idea is definitely that there's going to be we talked about the SharePoint Copilot coming up. We actually demoed that you're able to say for Copilot that, hey, I want to create a site or page which is looking like that, and it's creating that. And all of that is starting to roll out relatively soon. Now, that does align partly from a timing perspective, at least for the modern portals, but technically there's no technical dependency because the Copilot is more on using the natural language for operations, and then of course we need to evolve the UX as well. So.
Cool.
Awesome. No, because it's good to hear that, because as a user, you only see SharePoint and think, okay, it's one platform. Why does it have to change appearances when I click on one button, which is there?
Yeah.
So this perspective is very, very understandable now.
Yep.
But one part of or one feature of the SharePoint that we get now more and more questions about is SharePoint Embedded and Premium. Maybe can you spare some words on that topic? So where's the difference? What does it do? And how can we use it? Maybe a little bit.
So I think there's actually a lot of confusion about around SharePoint Premium and SharePoint Embedded and what's the relationship. But technically, like I said, the SharePoint is more as a broad platform. We have sites, we have lists and libraries, we have SharePoint Premium is a one section, and basically then the SharePoint Premium is more the content management services and advanced capabilities there. Now has been bundled under the SharePoint Premium name from a branding perspective, so there's an indication that it's a premium paid add-on. That's kind of the same as we do have for Teams Premium. Teams Premium from a name perspective is older, but it was kind of logical from a user perspective that, okay, so these are the premium features, they have a paid add-on capability on it. So anything which is oversimplifying thing, the thinking is that the content management services which have a additional license, they are under the SharePoint Premium. And then inside there, we have capabilities like the contract, the page detection and the SharePoint syntax, and then the translation services are awesome example. E-signature is some of those features in the premium. So they're add-on on the baseline stack. And one of those add-on features is SharePoint Embedded, which is more for application providers and ISVs, and if you're building a customizations on top of the SharePoint or top of the Microsoft 365, you can take advantage of the SharePoint Embedded. But it's technically SharePoint embedded. It's a container. It's almost like an Azure container for files, but with SharePoint container with the SharePoint advantages on it, for example, compliancy and all of that stuff. And you can also access those files in that container directly using the Office viewers and editors. But SharePoint embedded is not a product. It doesn't have a UI. You are responsible for implementing the UI. It's more for storing files. In the past, ISV or applications which are running in Microsoft 365, if they are storing files, then there was always the question: where is the file saved?
Yeah.
Is it saved in my customer tenant, or is it saved in Azure instance which the vendor owns or the partner owns? And now the idea is that, well, you don't have to take the file away; you keep it in a customer tenant, and that's SharePoint embedded.
Okay.
Is there additional license for the embedded compared to the premium?
Yes. So the SharePoint Premium, again, the SharePoint Premium is a selection of multiple licenses and features, and every single of those features have their own paid structure. And SharePoint Embedded, well, it's not a license, but you pay based on usage, and that's basically based on the storage. What is being used for storing those files in the container?
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yes. So to wrap up, I would like to ask you, what is the community for you? I mean, I know you go to lots of events, and you also do online things, and the community. I think the community is so important. Without the community, you only have a box with buttons. You need the people to spread the word. So can you share something about the community?
For me, the community is actually the most important thing in any product design or creation, or let's say driving adoption. It all comes back on that community and people basically being able to find the relevant guidance, and more importantly, the connection. So in our case, for example, in our Microsoft 365 Power Platform community work, what we're doing, we're trying not to own anything. We're not trying to control anything. We just want to facilitate. So having a forum like the community calls, where few Enea have been doing a demo in the community call. So having a place where people can come, and hopefully we've been able to build a location which have a broad visibility, where you can come and show your skills, and then you can promote your YouTube channel. So that's not a way. Absolutely 100%. You come there and you promote your YouTube channel, your assets, and all of that. But if we can help you to succeed within your day-to-day work even more, that's where the community is important. And that's how we're always approaching on things. Again, we don't want to control, we don't want to own anything. I don't even want to host any of those calls, but somebody needs to. It's never been about me. And in the best case scenario, I'm confident on the thinking that I've been able to build a long-term sustainable community on the moment when I can just disappear and nobody even remember. It doesn't have an impact. So it will still keep on going and going forward. So.
Listen, but it's a win-win situation, right? So if you push the community to come forward and show their skills and show what they've built, it's a win-win scenario. Exactly. The community participant publishes their knowledge and also their channel and so on and so forth, but also Microsoft gets more attention and also gets a feedback. So it's a win-win situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my experience from the Microsoft community, even for non-MVPs, it's so helpful. And, no one says, oh, you don't know the answer. You don't need to be afraid to ask stupid questions.
Correct.
And people are willing to help. And people, whoever nominated me was from Canada, Norm Young. So, and by the way, I think he nominated also Enea.
Me as well, yeah.
He's from Canada. I'm from Israel. And he followed me and said, listen, I like what you're doing, and go on and listen. And he mentored me, and just people are so nice, and sharing is caring, and that's really the topic here. I
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
feel.
And like you said, you can have those worldwide connections, and everybody is welcome. It doesn't matter what kind of accent you have or a thing. The beautiful thing, the most awesome demos what we're seeing in the community call are not necessarily always with the best possible Oxford accent, but we want to see them. And people still value out of them, and nobody needs to be perfect in the language because they can't. We just English is the chosen language of IT industry, and I guess we cannot do this in the native languages. If I would be starting speaking Finnish, that would be cutting down the audience significantly,
Yes.
unfortunately. But it's I think the mental mindset is everybody is always welcome, and they can join, they can contribute, and we have even programs on helping people to present. So
Yeah, I
Awesome.
think people take to advantage, that English is a mother tongue, and others just need to. It's a second language or third language,
yes,
and they should appreciate more. That people are breaking well, doing it's less natural to speak
yes,
a language which is not your native one. And second thing is, I think it's important also for local communities, also in local,
yes,
because some not everyone knows English, and sometimes people know IT but don't know the
Yeah.
English as well. And I think Microsoft, or the community, or people like us should also promote local in
The local
trainings
language.
in
Yeah.
local. Yeah.
yep, absolutely. And that's why we have, for example, the communitydays.org, which is Microsoft is helping, they're coordinating that one. But it's basically an idea there is that you have those local events happening potentially in the local native language, and then we promote them through one centralized location.
Yeah.
So for those who are willing and want to see other people in person, which is an awesome option as well. So I think those are super valuable. The smaller user group meetings are incredibly valuable for making those
Yeah.
network connections and finding other people who are similar minded, and then potentially finding a new careers even. So all
Yeah.
of those
Also, the
options are available.
interactions are more
Exactly.
are easier in the smaller groups, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Last question from my side. Do you want to share with the community something extraordinary that you do on your free time, or something that people?
I
Oh,
I
with the
think most of the people actually know what I do in my free time. This is why I'm waiting
wow.
for the snow to melt, and this is my go-to thing, 100%. So, um, and I actually I can show this one still in here. I realized that because I'm getting a bit older, I don't have too many years anymore for myself to do this. So now I'm actually upgrading to the really big stuff.
Oh,
So
Oh,
oh.
okay.
Are
Awesome
you
stuff.
but
protected? Do you put helmet and
I
knee and arm?
yeah, so
Uh,
I always do helmets, but then I stopped doing at some point the knee and the other bats, and that's mainly because
yeah.
when I do long distance, and when you do like
Okay.
40 kilometers or 45 kilometers, when you have a something on your knee pad, it will
Yeah.
basically tear the skin out because you have so
Oh,
much movement. So,
Okay.
okay.
but I haven't had a too bad crashes now for a few years, and try to be a bit more calmer on that one. I think my highest speed on the downhill is still 45 kilometers in an hour. So, and
Wow.
then you start realizing that, well, if I now crash, this is
Oh
kind of
my
That's
God.
hard.
painful. Yeah.
Yes. But
Okay. Let's
so
hope that
calming
that
down.
never happens.
Yes, exactly. But definitely do wear helmets, do wear pads if you start doing something similar. But again, I've been doing this for so many years, so the balance is decent, and then but always helmet, 100%,
Yeah.
always helmet.
Okay, thank you,
Welcome.
Vesa, for joining us. It's really a treat, and
Thank you.
we learned so much from this session, and we hope to collaborate in future. And we want to thank everyone that joined this podcast. Thank you, Enea, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank
Also,
you.
Ami, please check out SharePoint Wizard YouTube channel and also Enea's YouTube channel. So really, really cool stuff. And thank you for being an active MVP.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.